What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I'm just going over looking at some of the comments from the boxing exhibition that we all witnessed Saturday night between Billy Joe Saunders and David Lemieux. How Billy Joe easily dismantled and outboxed David Lemieux, and at times made him look amateurish, and in the bout. Uh, and I was looking at the comments. I appreciate, all the love from the British fans. I got to get to Great Britain and see some of the fights because I love the energy in Britain, you know, because boxing is alive and well. Like you keep saying it, and I'm going to say it again. I love the way, I remember Mayweather fighting Ricky Hatton, how exciting that fight was. And what made it exciting is because the energy that was in the arena. But what made that energy was the British that came over, that gave support to Ricky Hatton, the hitman, with 33 wins, no losses back in the day. So, that tells you that they back their countrymen and they love boxing. So I can appreciate the fans and I appreciate that. But I was reading the comments, in the comments, David Clark, he stated that, that Billy Joe can tangle with GGG or Canelo and win, And another one from Darren Lovegrove. Darren Lovegrove stated that Canelo will duck Billy Joe Saunders after this display of boxing talent and fight Golovkin, and Golovkin won't duck him, and he would beat Golovkin also. I'm going to do this in order. What David Clark said, Billy Joe Saunders would, he would give both of those guys a good fight. I think he has a better chance of beating Canelo than Golovkin. Why? Because Canelo, if you know anything about Canelo Alvarez, he's not good with boxers. He's not good with movers. If you two fights you can easily watch Lara versus Canelo and watch Mayweather when Canelo fought him. When any of these guys get in the ring, a pure boxer will always give Canelo hell. Why? Because Canelo is not a typical Mexican fighter. He's not going to cut off the ring like David Lemieux should have done. But, David Lemieux depend on his power. But Canelo doesn't do that. He likes to depend more on his boxing, his counterpunching opportunities. Where someone like Billy Joe Saunders, that's being a boxer, wouldn't really let him do. He wouldn't give him that opportunity. He would make it. He would use his reach and his height, because you look at it, Canelo's the same height as David Lemieux. They're the same height. They're both 5'8". Them are short dudes. Him, Mayweather, David Lemieux, all these dudes are like this. Okay? They are short guys. The only difference between Mayweather has longer arms. That's the only difference. But Canelo probably has around the same reach. I haven't really researched Canelo's reach in a while, but he doesn't have a long reach for that height. So he doesn't have extra long arms or extraordinarily longer arms than his height concerned. So he would have problems getting to Billy Joe, because Lara reminds me a lot because what he could do, Lara and Mayweather just formed a blueprint how to beat Canelo, being a boxer. You dance around him, you use your legs, you counterpunch. The only thing about Lara was I don't think that Lara did enough of it, but I feel that it doesn't matter what he have done, he wouldn't have won a decision against Canelo anyway. But Canelo may duck, he may duck Billy Joe Saunders. I could see that happening, because like I stated in the last video, this is chess. This ain't checkers, right? Because they're not going to put their cash cow in there with Billy Joe after Billy Joe has already handed one of their top fighters, because David Lemieux is a top Golden Boy earner. He's one of the top guys in Golden Boy. Make no mistake about it. His credibility might have dropped after Saturday, but he was one of the top earning talent from that particular stable of Golden Boy. So I don't think they would rather risk that. I think they want to make more money with Golovkin. So as long as they got him tied up with a possible rematch with Golovkin, they won't ever go in there with Billy Joe after that belt. It's a possibility, but I don't see that happening. I think I would see Billy Joe. I see Billy Joe just outboxing Canelo if Canelo ever fought him. Because Lara has already done it and Floyd sure as hell done it. And I talk about Lara a lot because Lara is also a southpaw, okay? And he's also a pure boxer. And then when you're dealing with a pure boxer and they use the ring like that, and you notice how big that ring was when he fought Lemieux, they can get a venue like Madison Square Garden that has a big arena, like a 24 by 24, not an 18. That's what Canelo wants, something smaller so Billy Joe will have less room to maneuver, and to set up his punches, and use the ring. So that's what they would capitalize on. But I don't really see Canelo fighting Billy Joe Saunders, Now, to the other question, Golovkin, what Darren Lovegrove stated. He stated that he sees Billy Joe making a mockery out of Golovkin, and he'll see that fight happening like it happened with David Lemieux. I would totally disagree 100% on that. Simply because, first of all, Golovkin, like I've already stated, Golovkin is not just a brawler. If you guys look at my older videos, my videos that I've talked about Golovkin and his fighting style, he adapts according to who he's in the ring with. He won't be able to do that with Billy Joe won't be able to just counter on Golovkin like that, because what Golovkin is going to do, he's going to use pressure. And look, David Lemieux's chin was kind of questionable anyway, because Billy Joe had him kind of wobbly anyway in that fight. I believe he could have took him out. But Golovkin, without a doubt, has a good chin. Yes, he's going to take punches from a quicker guy and a slick guy like Billy Joe if they fight. And I think they will fight. I think that fight was close to fruition at one point. And I think it depends. If the Canelo-Golovkin fight falls out, there's no one else to fight because he already fought Danny Jacobs. And I think Billy Joe would want to go for the gusto and go for the money than to fight Danny Jacobs, because it's more money fighting Canelo or Golovkin. One for all the belts, and Canelo is a cash cow, than to fight Danny Jacobs. I would love to see that for a fan standpoint, me being a fan, seeing Jacobs get in there with Billy Joe. But that won't really happen, I don't think. I think he's either going to fight one or the other, you know what I mean? Or he could just really go and fight another British fighter, you know what I mean? But I think Golovkin, it'll be more of a jabbing match. Now, being the only problem I have with that I kind of can see Mr. Lovegrove's point of view, is when he fought Danny Jacobs gave Golovkin problems, and Golovkin was he was tentative in there whenever Danny Jacobs switched to the southpaw stance, even though he had the knockdown in the fourth. Okay, that really, when Danny Jacobs changed to that particular stance, he was confused. He was really uncertain of what he really wanted to do in the ring. He still used pressure, but his punches, he wasn't really sure what to really mount. So he did that lunging right and things of that nature, and Billy Joe doesn't fight like Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs he boxes off his back foot, but he throws strong hooks as opposed to Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs throws short left cross punches, and then he's quick. He'll do some Irizlandi Lara stuff. Well, he'll come in with a left, and before Golovkin can counter, he'll lock him up and tie him up, which is a smart move. It's not the most exciting, but it's the most effective, especially with somebody that has dangerous punching power like Golovkin. So what he'll do, he'll go in and he'll throw those short punches, whereas Danny Jacobs likes to throw quick combinations. He really doesn't throw straights. He threw them at times, and they really didn't affect Golovkin like I guess they should have. So and Danny Jacobs is more of a hooker and an uppercutter. His power is mostly in his hooks and uppercuts. That's his strongest punch, or his strongest punches. So Um, but Billy Joe's throwing short, quick punches like those winky right punches. You know what I mean? Just straight up the pipe. You know, he'll catch Golovkin off guard, and Golovkin will eat a lot of those punches. You know, he will get hit. But one thing about Golovkin, he can adjust. He does have that strong power jab, and he's going to use that as a rangefinder for Billy Joe. And depending on which guy's reach is long, I think Billy Joe has Golovkin, but Golovkin is not, you know, a T-Rex like arm guy. He has some reach to him. You know, he's not a Tyrannosaurus Rex. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have short arms, in other words. You know, so he can get in there and mount that strong. He has a strong jab, and if he can start connecting that jab, that's all Golovkin really needs. But in this case, Billy Joe will be at the southpaw stance, so it'll be a lot of a counter with the right, you know. But Golovkin throws a looping right, you know, and then some of it's kind of slow, some of it's kind of fast, you know, and he really doesn't. And if you notice, Golovkin really just doesn't throw straight rights. If you notice that about Golovkin, so he'll try to come in with a right and see if he can cut off the ring with Billy Joe. But I don't just see Billy Joe going in there and doing what he wants to do with Golovkin. Now, if he can do that, that would be something special to see, you know. So, and that would even surprise me. So, really, to knock these two out, I have him beating Canelo and having a very tough fight if he can beat Golovkin, you know. And this is just like a pre-fight, you know, just you know. And you got to put in, Golovkin is 35 years old. He'll be 36. So by the time he fights 36, and Billy Joe Saunders said it himself, he was once afraid to fight Golovkin at one point, a couple years ago. You know what I mean? Like 15. You know, I mean, I just seen a video recently that Billy Joe said that Golovkin would beat him and Chris Eubank Jr. in the same night. So that should tell you where his confidence level was, or he was that confident that Golovkin would beat him. He didn't want any part of him. But now, since he, you know, another video I've heard that he said, well, hey, yeah, Golovkin is getting older and slowing down a little bit. I think I can take him right now. That's not the most honorable shit to me, but that is a strategy for some people. You know what I mean? Hey, wait till he gets old. You know, I've always totally been against that, you know, because I've seen fighters do that, like Danny Garcia and Canelo Alvarez, and they fight older guys. Like Danny Garcia fought Eric Morales when he was way past his prime. And on top of that, Canelo fighting Sugar Shane Mosley, where Sugar Shane Mosley, you know, was nowhere near his prime. You know, his last good fight was, 5 years ago. You know what I mean? I know he fought Floyd Mayweather 2 years before he fought Canelo. You know, so he was nowhere near his prime. So, I mean, that type of strategy is not, that really doesn't sit well with me personally, but a lot of people do it and it's ineffective. So, you know, he thinks he can take him on now since he slowed down a bit, you know, I mean, hey, you know, if he likes it, I love it, right? So I mean, I think in another thing, his confidence is up. So if he believes he can do it, he doesn't have that down in his mind like he had before. I see him possibly, you know, going in there and giving Golovkin a good fight. But it depends on what Golovkin comes into the ring, because let's face it, he'll be 36 soon. Okay, I think in April he'll turn 36, or in March or something like that. And you know, all boxers have an expiration date. He can go in there and get old overnight, and Billy Joe Saunders, you know, has his way with him simply because he's not the same type of fighter. And I've seen differences in Golovkin. He's not the same fighter he was 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it in, you know, in the Canelo fight. It was shades of it then. It was shades of it in the Danny Jacobs fight. So Billy Joe might be on to something. So if it's any time that Billy Joe can beat Golovkin, it would be now. But it would still be a tough fight because no one's just going to go in there and beat Golovkin. You know what I mean? You got to outpoint him. You got to have some type of strategy, and he will. Billy Joe I believe he will have a strategy going in there. So, but anyway, that's my take on these two questions and these two answers, or these two statements rather, and it's really my rebuttal about that. But anyway, you guys keep watching, and this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News. You guys been counterpunched. Peace.